following on YouTube. Her name is Kaelyn. I'm gonna link her channel down below, but she had this video and a Substack article called The Frugal Chic, or The Philosophy of the Frugal Chic. And one of the tenets was basically having like signature outfits. And as I was packing for this trip to Oxford to lead the writing retreat, I was thinking about it. I was like, I have a signature outfit. And my packing was so simple because basically I wear skinny jeans, some kind of t-shirt or like tank top underneath, and then I brought 2 jumpers. These are both from M&S. They're thrifted and they're like oversized men's jumpers, and that's like my signature outfit. And my current signature scent is Jouissance Le Bagadou. This is a perfumery in the UK. They only have 3 scents and they're based on female writers. And this one smells like a dewy, wet rose, and I'm obsessed with it. Ah, seems we have a visitor.
Hi, stranger.
Hi. You look nice.
Being adventurous today.
I was literally just saying to the camera that
Hi, camera.
that I'm doing the opposite. I'm wearing my signature outfit. Kate look how cute she is. Look at this skirt. I'm so much taller than you. Like, I look like a giant. Like, even my head, like, I mean, in fairness, like, it's the proportion. Like, my head is just closer. But my head looks huge. But anyway, we're in Oxford, baby. And it's time to go get some breakfast. When Kate and I initially thought about doing this writing retreat, we were focused primarily on helping people get words on the page and trying to make progress on a specific project. However, as we began the planning stages and as we headed on into this week for the symposium, we decided to change the structure a little bit. Instead of focusing on the number of pages we got written that week, it was all about the actual written practice, your relationship to writing and research. And so this first day really began with connecting to our research, thinking about what got us started with it, and also thinking about what kind of aspirations we have for our research, for our writing for that week, as well as what kind of goals we wanted to set. Now, I very intentionally decided that for this particular retreat, I wouldn't have people set really strict goals. Instead, what I wanted them to focus on was a feeling. So I asked them, what do you want to feel by the end of this week? And also, how can we start to embody that feeling each day? And how do we set goals in order to work towards that feeling? So instead of thinking about wanting to write 2,000 words in a week where you might need to have about 500 words a day, I said to set smaller daily intentions. And since this retreat is hosted at the beautiful Oxford University, we made sure that each one of our members had a reader card. You do not need to be a student in order to receive a reader card. All you need is identification to go to the admissions office and fill out the paperwork. You also have to make an oath that you won't burn down the library, but I think that that is a small price to pay to be able to work in some of these beautiful environments. So we head on into the upper reading room at the Radcam to do our first day of work, and I would say that the first day of our writing retreat was a success. Let's have a little debrief after day 1 of the writing retreat. So this writing retreat was something that members had been asking for a while, and this is our first time officially doing it. We've done a bunch of meetups and things, but this is the first time we've ever actually tried to host like a structured writing retreat. And there are 7 members of Acceptance Society that have joined us, and it was just so special. Every time I mention Acceptance Society, I struggle with this balance of, oh, it sounds like an ad or whatever, but like, I'll just be straight with you. Acceptance Society, these are my people. When I say that Acceptance Society is a community, What I mean is that it's the one space where I feel like I get to fully step into myself and the research and the nerdy aspects of things, and to just be supported. I was having this conversation with some of the members today after we did the initial exercises in the morning that I talked to you guys through, and we were saying that the difference is that it's a space of belonging. There's no competition, and I think that we often don't have those kinds of spaces where you just get to be wholly yourself. And I think it's particularly hard as a researcher because the academy kind of pushes this way of being where it just feels like you're constantly like checking what other people are doing and feeling like you're not adequate enough. And today, instead of setting, these ideas of instead of setting these like kind of set tangible goals, what I said was, I want us to prioritize a feeling. I want us to prioritize progress and to prioritize community. So I also had everybody kind of buddy up and then say, that's your person today. And if you're struggling, if you need a break, if you feel like you're going to procrastinating, then I want you to lean on community. I want you to lean on your partner. I want you to take a walk or go grab a coffee or like just take a moment outside to have a chat. And it's everything that we kind of build into the online space, but just obviously much more enhanced being in person. And I just feel like I'm like ending the day with this really like kind of satisfying feeling of having poured myself out. And it's a different feeling than being drained, and I don't really know how to describe it other than pouring out your cup in a way that feels intentional and feels like I did it in such a way that made me feel like heartful rather than just feeling like you're being depleted. And I don't know if that's making any sense, but it was a really nice day. I didn't do any research today. There was just so much admin that needed to be done for Accepted and to get the YouTube video up today. And I'm going to be getting back into the research tomorrow, but I definitely need a good night of sleep. It's been a couple of days since I submitted the dissertation draft or like partial draft to my advisor. And I got a really good email back from them. And so I'm going to be working alongside the others at the writing retreat tomorrow on my own research. But it is time to do a couple of other bits and bobs before I take my shower and head off to sleep. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. And now here we are on to day 2 of the writing retreat. Now this one was particularly special because it was based on a session that we actually had for the researchers course, which was all about the limiting beliefs that we hold on to and that get in the way of our progress when we're writing. This is often related to something that somebody said to us when we were younger, or, your supervisor, a professor, or your parent, and how these can kind of nag at you and get in the way of your progress. So we really wanted to help identify that and then reframe it in order to think about those limiting factors and how it is that we can think of them in a positive way. So for example, a lot of what came up was a fear of criticism or a fear of backlash, especially because a lot of us do work that is public facing. And instead, what we tried to focus on was that if you are getting backlash, if you are getting attention, that means that your research is actually having an impact, and that there's ways that we can kind of filter and categorize that feedback to make it most useful to us rather than just debilitating. And afterward, we headed over to the Radcliffe camera, also known as the RadCam, in order to get some work done. On this day, I finally got out of the admin bubble and got to work on my dissertation. I was working on this one specific section on the language within the sermons of the Virginia company that tried to attract investors. So it's this kind of rhetoric of compensation that is written about by another scholar. And it was really nice just to be surrounded by my friends, knowing that not only was I in a library with other people doing their work, but that I was specifically surrounded by members in my community. Okay, so Kaelyn Chang.
Heard good things.
China Dream, this is like modern China, talking about totalitarianism.
Cool.
And then Maoist. I'm very curious if they have that one book that Alyssa was mentioning, because I'm assuming it would be in this section.
What is it called?
Something red flower, red. You know, we went to Blackwell, so obviously we got to do a book haul. Now, first and foremost, the first book that I received on this trip is from the most beautiful, brilliant Jilly. She's a member of Acceptance Society, and she knows how much I love learning a bit more about Chinese history, heritage, identity, etc. And so she got Where the Past Begins, Memory and Imagination by Amy Tan. Amy Tan is the author of The Joy Luck Club. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of my mom's favorite books. And this is her personal memoir. My heart feels so warm knowing that Jilly saw this and thought of me and picked this up as a little bit of a gift. I have, I believe, The Bone Setter's Daughter, which is also by Amy Tan, so I'm excited to read a little bit more of her writing, hear a bit more of her story, and everything in between. And along the theme of Chinese heritage and identity, one of the reasons I wanted to go to Blackwell's in particular, as you saw when I was chatting with Kate, is to see their selection of Chinese fiction in translation. So I got 3 books in the translation section. This is Yan Lianqi, Serve the People. This is during Mao's regime in the 1960s, and this is about a forbidden love affair. Sounded intriguing. The other one that I got is China Dream by Ma Jiang, and this is a contemporary Chinese book in translation about President Xi Jinping and totalitarianism. And then for one that's a bit more historic, we've got Eileen Chang's Love in a Fallen City. And this is set between the 1930s and the 1940s, which is the time when my great-grandparents would have been like in school and then in university. And as I've been reading more about China during World War II and the Japanese invasion, as well as I guess like more contemporary history, so heading into like the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. I have been reading a lot of fiction written by Chinese American authors or Chinese British authors, but not as many books in translation. So I'm looking forward to reading through these 3. And then in addition to the books that I picked up in translation, I also picked up this book about the Chinese Revolution from 1945 to 1957. And I did read the first couple of pages. One thing I will say is it definitely has like a Western slant, but I'm curious to see what source material is in here. I don't read a lot of historical nonfiction that is outside of my PhD subject, so I'm curious to dive into a bit more kind of modern Chinese history, and this is, I think, is just like a good starting place. But if you have other recommendations, especially those in translation, I would love to see what else is out there. And then lastly, the bookseller at Black Holes was actually recommending this book to somebody else, but the way that she described it got me intrigued. This is Heartburn by Nora Ephron, and this is about a woman who finds out that her husband is cheating, and she kind of finds an outlet in cooking. And I have never read Nora Ephron, but as the screenwriter for all of the famous 90s rom-coms, When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, etc., I was intrigued. And also, this is a short book. And let me tell you, I tend to read some long books. Not so much this summer. I feel like I've read a lot of shorter, like, contemporary romances this summer, but why not pick up another? So that is my selection from Blackwell's. These are the only books that I'm going to get during this trip. I am trying to be more financially responsible, given that I had to pay for a visa, and given that I have a lot of other expenses on the horizon. But Blackwell's in particular is known for their section in translation, and I did say that I could go and pick up some books in translation, as well as, you know, a bit more to read on modern Chinese history. I'm just so grateful that we decided to do this writing retreat, because it's just been so much fun, and I would really like to do another one. So I need to figure out what the logistics of that might look like. But if it's something that you'd be interested in, please let me know in the comments, because we would love to do more stuff like this, but the challenge is always interest and making sure that obviously we can afford it, because our ability to do it is very dependent on how many people can actually attend the writing retreat. So we can pay for things like accommodation. I am so grateful to be sitting in a college dorm in Magdalen College. And now I'm just gonna spend the rest of the night reading. Day 3 of the writing retreat was dedicated to peer review. Now, this is something that many of us avoid, and I certainly do. The act of actually handing over your work to somebody to receive feedback. And so since we were asking the members of the writing retreat to do this, I also was intending to hand over my dissertation to Kate, which I have not had anybody read my research in over a year and a half. So this felt really nerve-wracking. So we started with a little bit of a journaling exercise about the emotions that arise when we are asked to let our work be seen by someone else. And this was just a really impactful session, not only for the members, but for me. I got to read Kate's research for her dissertation, and getting to see the evolution of her work has just been so special. And getting to receive feedback and it be careful, kind, compassionate made a really big difference.
time. And they walk in and we're just
different formats of thought about how time plays out within judicial decisions, and using one particular case to illustrate a shift in how the courts are making those decisions.
Come to the sort of accept that child and reconcile their fate with the community their child belongs to and how they feel in themselves.
Good morning. It is the final day of the writing retreat, and that means that today is all about presentations. So we're actually starting the day at the library, helping everybody get situated. It's a very kind of low pressure. Just want people to share their work, share a little bit about what they've learned throughout the writing retreat and how it may have impacted their process. And I'm really excited because starting off the day in the library is ideal for me. I meant to meet up with everybody at 10, but it's currently about 9, and I know that the rad camp opens at 9, so figured I would just head over there and get situated. There's a couple of little admin bits and bobs that I need to figure out for accepted for the weekend, and then I'm going to work on some dissertation reading. So that is the plan for today. It feels like this kind of bittersweet end. It's been such a wonderful week, and I hope we get to do more of these in future because it's just been so wonderful. And obviously we get to do it at my favorite place, so it makes it even more special. But I am just getting over to Rad Camp. Hello! Look who's there! Influencers in the wild. So we're heading over to the Rad Camp. Talissa's now with me. Unexpectedly, I have a guest. I have a companion.
A gremlin.
So we're gonna head on into the Rad Camp and get some work done. I didn't actually capture any footage from the end of our final day, and that is because it was a rather emotional experience. Being able to come together and talk about the challenges that we face, but also knowing that we finally have community, we finally have people that we can lean on in these moments. And I think what was really special about having such a small group was that everybody got to really know each other, got to know each other's work, got to know each other's fears, and it just felt like such a special environment to be able to share this with the members. And this is something that I'll remember for forever. I really want to do more writing retreats in the future, and Kate and I are certainly talking about how we can plan that. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, then please let me know in the comments. And as I wrap up today's video, I just want to thank those who attended the writing retreat, which included Laura, Maria, Talissa, Joangeli, Martina, Jilly, and Hannah. You guys were so special. You created such an incredible experience and environment for one another and for me and for Kate. And I'm just really grateful that you were there. So see you all very soon.